Hello there, and welcome to How to Train Chess Like a Grandmaster. I'm Grandmaster Max Illingworth. I'm the 2018 and 19 Australian Chess Champion, and I want to congratulate you for starting this video course. It's really great to have you here because it means that you're really serious about becoming a better chess player, and this is my way of showing you how I think about chess, how I approach chess study as a professional player, and how you can apply it yourself in order to improve your chess results, to maybe win that chess tournament, get your chess rating up, maybe even to become a titled player like a chess master or a chess grandmaster. And for that we'll be covering a wide range of topics, and these are based on the different questions and challenges that my students have shared with me, where I've been helping people with their chess since I was 9 years old, helping my school team win the primary school chess championships back then for our area. So I have a lot of experience doing this. This is my passion, to help you as a passionate, committed chess improver to improve at chess and enjoy all the happiness that comes with learning more about this amazing game and becoming a better and better chess player. So that's my introduction about how to train chess like a grandmaster. I mean, it's a pretty self-explanatory title, right? So let me share with you a bit about, what are the qualities of great chess players? Now, I find when watching videos like this, it can be very easy to sit back in your chair, just sit and nod saying, yes, sir, and then forget to, actually apply it actively. Where the way to really learn something more strongly, so that you can use it successfully in your own games, is to apply it as actively as possible. And the way I do that is by asking lots of questions, where you'll have lots of chances to apply what I'll be teaching you in these videos. And if you do need more time to think about them, you can always pause the video and think about it more. Or say, for example, if maybe my Australian accent is a little difficult to understand, then you can always go back and replay what I said. And you can study these lessons over and over, as many times as you need to master these lessons and apply them well in your own games. So the question I asked before was, what do you think are the qualities of great chess players? What is it that makes a chess player like a grandmaster so strong? Now, you can pause the video and write down your answer and compare it with my thoughts and my own experience. So it is your chance to pause the video if you want to do that. Okay, let me share with you what I consider to be the most important qualities that chess players have. Of course, strong chess players obviously put a lot of work in and a lot of practice to get to that level. I mean, chess is not something where you can just, say, work through a 20-hour video course and immediately become a chess master. As I'm sure you realize, chess is a lot more complicated than that. And it's true that if you're starting out in chess, you can improve more with relatively less work. But as you get better and better, it takes more and more work and effort to get to that next level. So I think one of the biggest qualities that really strong chess players have is that they absolutely love chess. They're really passionate about chess. It's like, chess is the most important thing for me. There's nothing I love more than chess. Is the sort of thing you often hear top chess players say. In fact, you might have heard, if you follow the recent chess news, that recently the Iranian junior Alireza Firouzja, he actually beat Magnus Carlsen in a match, in a final blitz match on Chess 24. That's one you can find on YouTube if you love watching top chess players, share their thoughts during the chess game, streaming their games live, which you might know about on Twitch TV, for example. But anyway, the point I want to share is that Firouzja was asked, well, how many hours a day do you work on chess as a top grandmaster and as the top junior chess player in the world at just 16 years of age? And Firouzja said, well, I kind of don't really keep count because, chess is all I think about, it's what I love to do. And so it might vary, but in many cases he just works on chess all day because that's just all he thinks about, and that's his whole life in a way. And I know that most of you watching this, you're going to have other commitments like maybe school or university study. Maybe you have a full-time job, or perhaps you have a family that you're looking after. So, of course, it's not easy to have that laser focus the way that Firouzja does. But still, the more important chess is to us, and the more that we love chess, then in general, the better our results are going to be. That it's almost like we kind of play chess for its own sake, if that makes sense. Just something we love to do that it makes us feel very happy, and it's very rewarding when we don't just play chess, but when we can play it well also. There are other qualities as well that really help a lot for becoming a stronger chess player, or just a strong chess player in general. Another one that a lot of grandmasters mention, and I certainly mention a lot also, is that of persistence. And what persistence is just never giving up. Where it's no matter how difficult the challenge is, or how hard things get with becoming better at chess, we keep trying and we keep looking for ways to improve. And even if we had a really bad tournament, then we don't let it discourage us too much. Where we try to learn from the game and then try to keep giving our best in the next tournaments. So that's what persistence is. And it's really important because no matter what your situation is in chess, no matter what your talent is or your level, you're going to reach a point where it will be kind of difficult, where you will face some challenges. And you might even consider, well, should I really keep going with this, or should I just give up on my dream of, say, achieving this chess rating or this chess title? The moments that really test us as people as well. What are we really made of when our back is against the wall and we're facing that struggle? And through chess, you can really train this skill. Where, as I said, if you love chess and it's really important to you to achieve your goal, then you can find a way. It's just a matter of not giving up and also being resourceful, where you could call it, being persistent or being resourceful. And if you're not sure how to be resourceful and maybe make the most of what resources you have, well, we'll be covering it in a later video. So we'll be answering your questions there. And it'll be really great to get into that in more detail. But in terms of other qualities of great chess players, well, I mentioned before that they work hard, where maybe a question you have is, how hard do I need to work on chess max in order to achieve my chess goal? And it's hard to give an answer for everybody, because maybe, it might vary depending on the person. Maybe, for example, for one person, maybe they don't study very effectively. Maybe they use some inefficient methods, and so it might take them maybe 4 hours a day to get to, say, a FIDE master or a candidate master. Whereas maybe someone who is maybe either just a more effective learner, say they're following all the best methods to learn, maybe they're getting coaching from a grandmaster regularly to help them with their thought process and with their chess skill, well then maybe they can do it a lot shorter, maybe with 2 hours a day, working maybe 6 years on chess, for example. Okay, this is probably an optimistic range for most people, but I want to inspire you. I want to show you that you can achieve your goal of becoming a strong chess player, that if you ever had that doubt of, can I really become a chess master? Well, I know of players who started playing chess really seriously only in their 40s or in their 50s, and actually still managed to become titled players or even very good club players in some cases. So it's the idea that we shouldn't limit ourselves just because we think, well, I'm not sure if I can do it. Well, let's give it our best shot. Let's really go after the dream and see just what you're capable of. And you just might surprise yourself. I speak also from personal experience that there are many things I'm doing now that when I was a young kid, there were these experts that told my parents, oh, Max is never going to do that, like it's just not going to be possible for him. And here I am now talking to all of you, helping you with your chess and hearing you out on your different chess challenges and sort of answering them for you here. So it goes to show that you shouldn't underestimate what you're capable of, especially in a very long period of time of just constantly working and just not giving up on your dream. I'm thinking if there's anything else. I sort of mentioned being resourceful, and I know that some of you might be wondering, well, what does resourceful mean? And I'd say that's just creating your own opportunities, making the most of the chances that you have, and when some chance does come to improve or to learn from some mentor, that you're able to take advantage of it and really reach that higher level with someone else's help. So sorry for the delay. I was worried my laptop had just run out of battery, but it's all good. Okay. So those, I think, are the main qualities of great chess players. I mean, I could talk about this for at least an hour. This is something I studied quite a lot when I was certified as a high-performance coach, certified by a high-performance institute, on helping people to reach a high performance in their life. But of course, I know you want to learn a lot about actual chess skill as well. It's obviously also very important for becoming a better chess player. But hopefully this has given you some idea of what maybe some of the challenges are you'll face and how you're going to have to maybe grow as a person to achieve your really ambitious chess goals. I know you can do it, but it's going to be a really rewarding journey. And it's going to make you a better person as well as a better chess player, if that makes sense. So, okay, let's continue on to a really nice example of a chess player never giving up. Because, I mean, if you follow sports, you've probably seen some sports match where, some player scores a goal or scores a run at the very last second and goes from being behind in the match for his team to being ahead in the match and winning. Like in a football game, or you're saying a lot of Indians will be watching this, so I think in India cricket is a very popular sport, like sort of scoring the winning run at like the last ball to win the match. So I think you understand this concept on a sporting level of the importance of continuing to fight, continuing to look for every last resource even in a bad position, and to just never give up until there's really no chance whatsoever, until the maybe even checkmate for the young kids watching. So this position here is actually from that Banter Blitz match I mentioned between Alireza Firouzja as white playing against Magnus Carlsen as black. And it's true that in this position, well, I'm not going to give away the evaluation. Who do you think is winning in this position? And you can pause the video if you need more time to think about this one. Okay, so the answer is that it's actually black who is winning in this position. And I can explain to you why that's the case. So if you counted the material, you'll have seen that the material is about equal number of pawns, a rook each. You have the bishop versus the knight, where the bishop is worth on average 3.5 pawns. The knight on average is worth about 3.25 pawns. So not much of a material edge for black. But if you actually think about the position here, I'm just going to remove the highlighting so that the board isn't lit on fire as such. Well, if we ask what are the weaknesses in the position, well, this c-pawn can't be saved anymore. Say if white were to give a check with the rook, we could take the pawn. And now, to your credit, you might have looked a bit deeper and thought, well, okay, Max, it's maybe not that simple. What if I bring my knight into the game and I try to attack black's weaknesses and get the pawn back? Well, it's a good suggestion, but the problem that white will face is that the b pawn is a passed pawn. It's not blocked by any of white's pawns here. And it kind of has this home run in order to queen where, I guess you could even play bishop e1 first, just so you can take the pawn, and then just push your passed pawn and... Okay, we don't have time to analyze it deeply here, but you might like to save this position. Maybe you can pause the video to think about it some more, and see for yourself that this position is very good for black. I think maybe even winning with best play, though I would need to analyze it deeply to be certain of this. So, the thing that's the important piece of information I left out here is that actually Carlsen was way behind on the clock. This was a blitz game, so quite a fast game with only, I think it was 3 minutes for each side to make all of their moves. And Carlsen was well behind on the clock here. So that means that if both players played at the same speed, then if Carlsen couldn't give a checkmate, then it would mean that Firouzja would win the game on time. As those of you that have played on chess.com or Lichess or some other server, well, you'll understand what I mean here about the clock. And what I like to say to those of you who maybe struggle with your time, you maybe lose on time sometimes or get so low on time you can't win that good position you spent time getting. Well, I'd like you to think of the clock as being like a 33rd piece. If we take the starting position, obviously if we count, there are 32 chess pieces on the board. But the clock is the 33rd piece because if you lose on time, then it doesn't matter really what happens on the position. You can't win if you lose on time, unless you're able to give checkmate on the board before your clock runs out. But otherwise, if the opponent has any sort of mating material, even if they have one pawn left on the board, and you lose on time, well then unfortunately it means you lost the game as such. But if you think of the clock as like a piece, if I have a lot more time on the clock, it's like I have an extra piece, because if they aren't able to checkmate me, then I can win, or at the absolute worst, draw the game if they don't checkmate me before they lose on time. Well, that can help you to use your time well and think, well, okay, this might be an important decision, but I'm going to have other important decisions later. So let's, make a good move based on what we've seen so far, and save that time for the critical positions later. Now, I'm sure you're very eager to know how this game concluded, and actually it has a very funny ending. I think you're really going to love this, where Firouzja just started playing to try to slow Carlsen down, where Firouzja was doing something known as a pre-move, which is where you play your move before your opponent has actually made their move. So say I play c4 and I drag the rook to d5. Okay, it doesn't work in chess space here, but it would sort of show an arrow. So no matter what move black plays, white plays rook d5 immediately without using any time on the clock. And that's a way to basically try to avoid losing on time, or at least take a long time before you lose on time. So that's what Firouzja did. He played what you'd say might be these troll kind of moves, just trying to give checks so that Carlsen couldn't pre-move black back. So Firouzja was just playing for time, maybe thinking, well, I'll just play random moves and flag Carlsen. But Carlsen was very cunning, where he just kept playing his moves. And, Carlsen just never gave up. He said, yeah, I know I'm really low on time, but I'm just going to keep playing as fast as I can. And, maybe things will go my way. So these crazy moves by these top grandmasters, Carlsen is the world chess champion after all. The crazy moves can be explained by the fact that they had no time on the clock. So just like a complete madhouse. So Carlsen played bishop f4, kind of saying, well, I'm trying to play an anti-pre-move by putting the bishop on pre. Firouzja pre-moved knight h2. Carlsen played rook takes h2. It's like just really, really crazy moves. King h2, f2. Of course, I was watching this live and it went a lot faster than this, but I'm going a bit slower just so you can follow the moves. So g takes f4, king e2, and actually it's a very clever idea by Carlsen. You can see that even though white is a rook up, he actually doesn't have a good way to stop black queening on the next move. After rook e5, Carlsen played king f3, Firouzja played f5, and here Carlsen had 0.3 seconds on the clock to Firouzja's 6 seconds. And Carlsen's like, okay, I need to checkmate on the next move or it's not going to win. So he pre-moved the move queen g2 in this position. So that means in this position, Firouzja has to find the move that avoids mate in 1. Well, maybe it can be a good puzzle for you for white to move. What's a move white can play where he won't get checkmated on the next turn? Okay, I can see two answers for white here. The one I was thinking initially was to play the move rook e3. And it's true, you're giving up the rook, and in that way you're not, you're not really keeping much material. But even if black manages to somehow play king e3 before he loses on time, which I think is very unlikely, well, fg6 is played, and it takes black at least another 2 moves to take the pawn, or for those who are very astute, you'll have seen that king f3 and queen g2 will actually checkmate on the next move. The problem is that with 0.3 seconds, even if you manage to play king e3 in 0.1 seconds and king f3 in 0.1 seconds for the pre-move, unfortunately you're going to lose on time before you can play queen g2 mate, because the pre-move costs 0.1 seconds to play if you can successfully play it. Also, likewise, if white played rook e2, it would also stop the checkmate in 1. So yeah, you could say that this was a key moment, and also it shows you how you can actually win a lot more time scrambles for those who like to play blitz or even bullet. But in the game, Firouzja was pre-moving, and he pre-moved fg6 and ran into queen to g2 checkmate in this position. So it goes to show that Carlsen was about to lose on time, but even when he had 0.3 seconds and it seemed like he couldn't save it if Firouzja played the right move, he still kept on playing, saying, as long as I have a chance to win or to at least not lose, well, I'm going to keep fighting and take every chance that he gives me. And the result was that Carlsen was able to turn what would have been a loss into a win with some very, very nice ideas to exploit Firouzja's fast play. So it's true, this lesson is one that is maybe not a purely chess lesson. We're talking about pre-moves and other funny things that are only in online chess. But the lesson is clear that Carlsen never gives up when he plays his games, and you also should never give up when it comes to your chess. Keep fighting and try to take every chance and create every chance you get in the game. So let's move on to the next question I have for you. So why do you love chess? I want you to pause the video when I ask these questions. Think about it, maybe even write down your answer would be really great. And then come back and we can compare our answers. So pause the video if you haven't already and let me know, why do you love chess? Okay, there are really a lot of possible answers to this question. There's no real right or wrong. But maybe I can share with you some of the more common answers. I think one of the more common ones is, well, I just love chess just because I do. That it's a lot of fun, and also a common one is, it's really intellectual, like really intellectually stimulating, like a game of brains. Or I really enjoy like outsmarting my opponents, or kind of thinking critically. And for parents, a common one might be, I want my child to have better concentration, to have better memory, may even have better results in school from the skills chess can give. And then there are obviously maybe more like, well, I really enjoy like beating my opponents. It's something I'm really good at, and it's really rewarding to play a really good game of chess. And I'm sure some of you will have some answers here that I haven't mentioned. There are really a lot of different good reasons, I think, for loving the game of chess. But it gives you an idea of what can be, a motivation for you to keep working on your chess and to continue practicing and improving. Speaking of practice, actually, it's another good reason that maybe you have a lot of friends in chess and you might just really love the social component and the community of tournaments. I know that's a big reason why I was still attending tournaments, actually, and just visiting my chess family even after I announced my retirement from tournament play, because it's a really wonderful community we have where there are lots of really good people, a lot of really clever people, and really not many people that are, let's say, like unkind or cruel people in the chess world. It's a very supportive and friendly community, and I'm really grateful to be a part of it as such, and to serve this community of chess players. Those are many reasons why I can love chess. Now, when it comes to actually making that improvement, I find that it really helps to have a really clear goal, to be really clear on what it actually want to achieve in chess. I mean, it's all well and good to certainly say, well, I just love playing chess. And I think there might also even be some of you who maybe will say, well, I'm not really that serious about improving at chess, Max. It's just a fun little hobby that I like to do. I enjoy playing games against my friends or at my chess club. And I'd prefer it if I win than if I lose, but I'm not really upset if I lose either. Maybe some of you have that mentality, and that's perfectly fine as well, of course. I know we can all find our own way of enjoying our chess and finding a reward. But obviously this series, it's aimed more at how a Grandmaster trains at chess, how you can train as well, and ultimately to help you become a better chess player. I mean, what I find is that the better you get at something, the more you kind of feel the reward for it, and the more you can appreciate it. Like the more you can say, appreciate Carlsen's really good moves or Vishy Anand's amazing chess games. So it's just like that kind of reward as such, at least from my experience. So when it comes to goals, I mean, some of you might have heard of this thing, like various acronyms like goals should be SMART or something like this. But I prefer a somewhat different approach, where I think that the key when it comes to a goal is to be clear on why it's important for you. So let me ask you this. What is your big chess dream? And you might like to pause the video and write down your answers to these questions. So what is your big chess dream? What would you love to achieve in chess? So if you're one of these people that just listens to me and doesn't write it, well, I do strongly recommend you write down your answer. It's really going to help you get a lot more out of the video, and I mean, that's why we're here. I want to help you as much as possible with your chess. Okay, so, well, obviously I don't know exactly what your goal was, but it doesn't really matter too much. I want you to think about, I want you to imagine, how would it feel for you to achieve that goal? What would your emotions be? Say your goal was to become a chess master, for example. Well, then how would it feel to become a chess master? So let me know your answer to this question. I'll write it down, pause the video, and come back here when you have your answer. So I'll give you an example of how I'd answer the question, because one thing I found is, as a coach, you should never make assumptions. that I shouldn't assume that necessarily you understood exactly what I said just because I understand it as such. So just to make sure we're on the same page, my answer when I was young was, well, my big dream was always to become a Grandmaster. And it was just, I really loved chess, and I realized it was something I was quite good at, that I enjoyed more than anything else. And I knew if I became a Grandmaster, it would show that I had, really got very good at something, that I had, truly mastered it. And, well, as I sort of got older, it also was about being qualified to really help people as much as possible with their chess. To say, well, if you want to become a Grandmaster, well, I've already got there, so I can sort of help you with some of the challenges along the way and show you at least what worked for me, and also help you with what might work for you in getting close to your chess goals. So that would be my sort of answer, and the feeling is, well, just very rewarding and very fulfilling. Kind of like this lifelong journey and this lifelong dream was finally achieved, and that it's not even about necessarily the destination for me of becoming a grandmaster, but kind of all the things I learned along the way. All these great experiences I had, all these really wonderful people I met, and these great mentors that didn't just help me in my chess, but really served as a good role model for my life in general. And I could share more about it, but I think you get the idea that for me it was just a general internal reward. And sure, like everyone else, I was motivated. I felt really good to play a really great game and win a tournament really convincingly. But it wasn't the only motivation. It wasn't just about what I would get from becoming a Grandmaster, but it was about the whole process and just sort of being able to share my love for chess and really continue on a logical path with this as such. Of course, your answer might be completely different. There's nothing wrong at all with that. But I think it gives you an idea of what a possible answer could be. And to give you an idea of whether, say, you're happy with your answer, yeah, Max, I'm absolutely ready to to go for the chess and give it everything I have in the time that I have. Or you might be thinking, well, my answer's okay, but I feel like I could maybe do it even better, or maybe I can still figure out what what it is that motivates me for the chess. And that's why I want to say that it's okay if you are still figuring it out. Because for me, I'm still figuring out things all the time for myself. I'm constantly figuring out how I can help you even more with your chess, what I can do to, have a much bigger impact in the chess world in terms of helping people achieve their chess goals. So it's a normal part of the process that, maybe you're absolutely certain of your answer now, which would be obviously very nice. But if you're not certain, then that's okay too. Just give yourself time to, to think and to keep improving, as it were. So, I guess that's some practical advice on goal setting. Well, let's go a little deeper with it. So, let's say we imagine that in 1 year from now that you're sitting next to me, you're sitting opposite me in a coffee shop, you're drinking coffee or drinking tea, because my mum likes drinking coffee, but I'm a bit more of a tea drinker. So let's go with tea. So we're sipping some tea together, living the good life, and you're telling me in a year from now, so it's in the time a year from now where we're drinking the tea, and you're telling me about how much you've improved in that year, about yeah, I did all these great things, Max, and I achieved this and I did that and I feel really good about this. So how about I pass it over to you? What would make you feel like you really you really improved a lot with your chess, and that you're really happy with your chess progress and your chess improvement? How would that look for you? Tell me about it. As always, I recommend you pause the video, you write down your answer question, how much you want to improve in 1 year from now. And when you've got your answer, we can come back and continue this lovely dialogue we have. Okay, welcome back. And Well, I don't know what your answer was, but some common answers might be like, I'd love to gain 400 rating points in the next year, or maybe it's like 300 rating points or even 200 rating points. If you're a relatively, let's say, older person watching this, then you might even have said, well, Max, even if I gain 100 rating points this year, it would be absolutely amazing for me. Because actually when you get to, let's say, my level, at the Grandmaster level, say if you're rated 2500 FIDE like I am, then even gaining 100 rating points in that year is really rare and really difficult to do. Like, not many people achieve it. So it's a thing to keep in mind that, you shouldn't compare your goal with what other people have. This is for you, and this is about what is important to you. And again, I might ask the same question as before. Like, how would it feel for you to achieve that yearly goal? Tell me about it. Okay, I don't know exactly what your answer was, but I know that if you're watching this video, you're certainly very keen on improving your chess. You're willing to learn from other people. And I think the fact you have these great qualities of being coachable, of taking that time to learn from other people, from experts that can help you get to where you want to be, then I have a feeling your answer is going to be pretty good, whatever it is. So yeah, I believe in you. And well, maybe your answer wasn't even about a rating, but maybe, although I think your rating goals are generally the best, but maybe you're a little bit different and you want to think more about skill. Like, maybe it's something like, well, Max, if I solve like 2,000 tactics puzzles in this year, that would be really great for me, because I find tactics puzzles really hard to solve. And if I could turn that into my strength, that would make me a much better player, and I wouldn't be making these silly blunders anymore. So you can also do it that way. Again, it's not really a right or wrong way to do it. It's about what works best for you. And I hope that by asking these questions, it's not just me saying, okay, this is the way to do it. Like, this is how the Grandmasters do it. Follow my lead. But actually helping you to find the right answers for yourself. Because I realized that what worked best for me may not necessarily be the best answer for you. So it is about helping you to find your answers for yourself. Because also you might find that when it comes to following different advice, like, it's much easier to do something if it's kind of our idea, like it's our brainchild, than if it's someone saying, do this, do that. Like, yes sir, yes sir. Okay, maybe I shouldn't joke about this, but you get the idea. It's easier to follow our own ideas than other people's, because, it's our idea, like it's our thing. Or in your case, it's your thing. So, okay, I think that's giving you some really good goals and some really good clarity on not just this is what I want to do, this is why I want to become a better chess player, but also why is it important? Like, why is this goal important to me? In fact, I recommend you actually pause the video and answer that question. Why is it important for me to achieve this goal? And don't forget to write down your answer. I hope you have been writing it down, or maybe you're typing it instead. It also works. Okay, so of course your why might evolve and get better with time, but you might remember the first thing I mentioned with chess, with what strong players have, is that they're really passionate about their chess. And another way to word that, if we use some high performance language, is that they're really clear on what they want and why this is important to them. So it doesn't matter if your answer is not perfect right now. Maybe your answer is okay, but it can get better. That's fine. But I think that once you get clear on your why, like, this is just me from my own experience, once you get clear on your why, of like why you want to do something, maybe let's say who you're doing it for, like not just how does it help me, but how does it help other people, like how does it influence my relationship with my friends or my family or my community or even the people I'm helping. If you're able to even bring it beyond yourself and perhaps see how your goal can be a role model for others, then that can also be really motivating and inspiring, at least from my own experience. So I really hope that that's resonated with you and that this makes some sense to you, that you can apply it. And I spent more time talking about than I originally intended, but this is just a topic I'm really passionate about, and I think it's important in chess not just to talk about chess techniques, but actually what are the non-chess skills that can help us be much better chess players and to improve a lot more. So I'm really glad I could help you with that. And actually, Sam, I got on a bit of a tangent. I'm so passionate about chess, I can talk about it for hours on end on one topic. I'm sure some of you can relate to this. So I want to share two chess positions with you, actually, because one thing I kind of forgot to mention is actually about the beauty of chess, where there are just so many different beautiful chess ideas and chess moves. And if you're a beginner watching this, then if you even just some nice checkmate, it's oh, look at this, I got him on this really nice checkmate, and I want to show you this really cool trick I played. And that's great. But as you get better and better, you're going to see more and more beautiful ideas and beautiful chess traps. And in fact, with these things called endgame studies or composed chess problems, they're positions that even can be difficult for the world's best chess players. But when you do see the solution, it's wow, this is just so beautiful. It's kind of like the Mona Lisa, the really beautiful paintings, but sort of like a chess version. Or if you're not so artistic and you prefer sports, it's kind of like the highlight reel, some really amazing goal that was scored in the last minute of a soccer match or football match, or maybe in cricket, someone I'm not an expert in cricket, just bear with me. Someone gets an amazing catch, you never would imagine they'd catch the ball from where it was hit, and somehow they managed to catch it. This kind of thing, and you can get what I mean. So an example is this chess problem, where it's a tough one, and if you, let's say, not so experienced with solving these problems, then you might feel a little bit frustrated, oh, why aren't I solving this problem correctly? But, you can pause the video and take as long as you need to find the solution. This one actually comes from my free Facebook group, Chess Endgame Studies and Compositions. Make sure that you have a link to that so that you can join it and be part of a great free chess community. It would be really great to welcome you in there. Okay, the aim of this puzzle is to checkmate Black's king in 2 moves. So it's white to move, and that means that we want to find the one move for white that we can play so that no matter what move Black plays, they get checkmated on the next turn. So pause the video, think about it, and come back here when you've either solved this puzzle or when you've given up and you just want to see the solution and not get a massive headache from solving this for 5 hours. Okay, so if you're skilled enough or if you were persistent enough, then you might have actually solved this puzzle, and in that case, congratulations. But even if you didn't solve it, actually just the effort of trying to solve it actually makes you a stronger player in itself. So this is your chance for you, a second chance for you to actually try and solve it and get that practice and improvement from solving a tough puzzle if you haven't done it yet. But for now, I'll assume that you have, and we can talk about the solution. Maybe I can share a few moves that don't work first of all, because maybe some of you thought you found the answer and actually you fell for some trick. Let's say white plays bishop g6, just takes the rook for free. Then black has king takes g6, and it turns out we can't cover all of these squares at once to mate their king. Because if we play, say, queen g8 check, the king can still run away like this. If you play queen f6, the king is running in this direction. King h7, or sorry, I've accidentally pressed the wrong button. It's really late where I am, so you'll have to bear with me for a sec. just close this. Yeah, there we go. So after queen to f6, yeah, we have king f7, h7 or king h5, and it's not a checkmate in 2 here. And if knight e5, then again the king can run away, and it's not going to be an immediate checkmate with knight e5. I mean, with these problems, there's a rule of thumb that, like, it's usually not going to be a capture if it's a checkmate in 2, like in a composed position like this. If you're solving tactics, it's a bit of a different story, but we'll get to that in a later video. If your idea was to play queen g8, well, the rook is covering it, so that's not a checkmate. If you want to play bishop g8 and try to a combination, well, they can take the bishop and even knight f6. Actually, I stand corrected. Actually, queen h6 is a checkmate. As I said, it's very late, and I am also not perfect, even though I am a Grandmaster. But this is actually an important lesson that it's very easy to assume, in chess that, if we can capture a piece, we must take it, which you can see I kind of did there, actually. But chess is not like checkers. You're actually not forced to capture. And one thing that will really improve your chess skill a lot, and mine as well as such, is to actually look for alternatives. Don't just assume they have to take the bishop, but what other move could be played instead here? And it turns out if black plays king to h8, there's actually no checkmating move on the next turn. Queen to h6 or queen f6 are both covered by the rook. And yeah, you can play various discovered checks, say bishop a2 or anywhere along the diagonal. But then h7 is not covered by the king, and the king will manage to escape here. Or indeed bishop h7 and king takes h7, as it were. So the bishop moves don't really seem to be working that well. Well, what if we play a quiet move? Let's say we play a waiting move and say, well, okay, our pieces are already all on the best positions, so let's just move the king to some square, like king g2, so that wherever they move their pieces, we can checkmate them on the next move. Now, the reason I played king g2 and not one of these other king moves is I don't want to allow the king to get checked, which might spoil the pattern a little bit. Actually, that's not entirely true. White would have checkmate anyway if black played either of these rook moves, as you can verify for yourself. Rook h6 runs into queen h6 checkmate again, because the bishop's covering this square, and the knight is defending the queen. Likewise, rook f6 and knight f6 would also be a checkmate. So maybe you thought a king move was the solution, but there is one rook move against which you will not have a checkmate next turn. Maybe you can pause the video and see if you can find it for a little bonus challenge. So the one move that doesn't allow checkmate next turn is rook to g7. That way we make sure there isn't a queen g8 checkmate, which was possible if the rook moved anywhere else. And if we try knight f6, then it's unfortunately not a checkmate for white, because king h6 and you do have mates in a couple more moves, but it's not a checkmate in 2, obviously, from the starting position. And actually, one technique that can help you a lot when you're solving chess puzzles, if you're really, really stuck, it's used what I call the elimination technique. And that's where we figure out what moves are not working, and then we can sort of eliminate the options that don't work, like in a multiple choice exam, until we're left with one that does. So we can kind of say then the king moves are not working, that the bishop moves are not working. And I mean the knight moves are not really working either, because if you play knight f6 check, for example, then rook takes f6 and queen g8 is not mate on the next turn. It takes 3 moves to checkmate. So that's not quite the answer we're looking for. If the knight moves anywhere else, I think the rook can then move to g7 if I'm not mistaken. Actually, to be honest, against pretty much every queen move white can play, black can actually play rook g7 in reply. I mean, say we play queen e8, for example, to attack the rook. I mean, they can play rook g7 and, again, knight f6 is not checkmate. Queen e4 is not checkmate either, because the king can then move away, for instance. So it is a queen move, but we're looking for exactly the right queen move here. And I'm just thinking if there are any other moves I should mention that you might have considered. I mean, queen e7 is another try, but say if rook g7, again, it's not a checkmate. So I've given you a bit of a chance to try and come up with the answer yourself, to give you a few hints, because I know from my own experience how hard these puzzles can be without a little bit of help. Okay, the answer to this puzzle is the move queen to a8, double exclamation mark for a brilliant move. And you might be wondering, well, Max, why is this move the answer? Well, let's run through the different moves that black can play and just eliminate the options. We can actually eliminate the different rook moves for black. If they move the rook anywhere along this 6th rank, that's named for the horizontal lines as the ranks, whereas these vertical ones are the files. So say if you play rook b6 for argument's sake, well, I guess you see the checkmating move, queen g8, and the king has nowhere to go. I mean, this is kind of 101, but just to make sure on the same page, the way to check whether it's a checkmate or not is to make sure that A, the king is actually in check, and B, that the king has no legal moves to get out of check. C, that we can't block the check in any way, say like queen e4 and rook g6 for example. And finally, that we don't have any way of taking the checking piece, say with rook g8. So if the king's in check and there's nowhere to move the king safely, if there's no way to block the check, and if there's no way to take the checking piece, then that means it's going to be checkmate, as we see here. And also you can't really move the king safely either. King g7 is the only legal king move, but then the rook's not covering g8. So again, queen g8 checkmate. And here's the hard part, and I think the really beautiful part of this puzzle. What if black plays rook g7 to make sure there isn't queen g8 checkmate? Well, then we get to see an example of the staircase queen, and by the way, these advanced tactical patterns are why I think that solving these kind of problems and endgame studies are for many players the best way to improve your chess. Because you get to see these lovely patterns that you don't normally see in actual games, but which will make you a much more imaginative player and much better at your calculation and visualization. So in case you didn't figure it out already, the answer is queen to h1 checkmate. And we can see the king has no safe move. There's no way to block the check. In fact, you can even call it a smothered mate because the rook is blocking the king's escape here. And we can't take the queen, so it's simply a checkmate. Okay, this was a bit of a long explanation of this. And for those of you who are quite advanced players and said, oh, I saw queen 8 in 1 minute, I'm a chess genius. Well, I thank you for your patience. I want to make sure this is a useful video for everybody, that we don't leave anyone behind. But okay, let's save this example. I like to save this so I can share it with my my group of chess improvers later. Okay, for the next one, I want to show you an actual game position, and this one has a really nice story to it, actually. So this is a game between Levitsky against Marshall from 1912. Just because it's an old game doesn't mean that we can't learn a lot from it, that it's not still a relevant game for us to study. Now, this can be a great test of your tactical skill, and we'll talk more about it later. But for now, I just want to share this game as a way for us to share the beauty of chess when a really beautiful chess move is played. So what do you think would be a good move for black in this position? Now, I've been talking quite a lot today, helping you all out with your chess. So I'll give you a chance to pause the video while I take a drink of water. And also, it's a good idea if you actually write down your move that you want to play and write down your analysis. That can really help you to be a better chess player. And I know it takes more time to do, so maybe not every single one of you is willing to do that. But it's a tip that some trainers like Jakob Ogard, the world's top chess trainer, I think Ramesh also recommends this, another world-class chess trainer, I think also the very best in the world. They recommend it's good to write down your thoughts on a chess position if you can, because it allows you to actually see your thought process and see for yourself, what you actually missed in your calculation and then what you needed to see to find the best move. So it is a chance for you to rise to the occasion if you haven't already. And okay, let's then talk about the position now that you've written down some of your thoughts, hopefully. So there's actually two winning moves for black in this position. The first one is the move rook to g6, where here we're using the idea of setting up a pin so that, well, it turns out after almost any queen move we have a really nice tactic to follow up. Let's say white plays queen e3, for example. You might realize that, say, if I play queen e7 and try to put the queen on an active square, that black might try a move like queen takes h3, using the pin on the pawn on g2 to say, well, you can't take my queen, because then your queen king would be in check, to win a piece and even just win the game as such. So what if they play queen e3 and don't let us play our queen h3 trick? Well, it turns out we have another way we can use the pin on the g2 pawn, which is a very common type of chess tactic. Do you see the move that black should play in this position? Okay, I assume that you've paused the video if you need more time to think about this one. The answer is you can play knight to f3 and use the pin to say they can't take the knight. If they play king h1, then which piece do you think we should capture and how should we capture the piece? Yeah, well done. Our queen is under attack at the moment, but we can defend it aggressively with queen takes e5. And of course the knight is defending the queen from behind. So even though white can take the knight, he still has only got one knight for a rook. Or more precisely, he has one bishop for a rook. So that in chess terms means we're up the exchange. And being up a rook for a bishop or a rook for a knight is indeed enough to win the game usually, if you play all the best moves afterwards. Assuming you don't have something to make up for that material disadvantage. So if you want to play rook g6, it's also good enough to win. But Marshall found another tactic in rook takes h3. And the idea of rook takes h3 is that white can't actually take that rook safely. I guess you probably saw why, because now there's no pawn on g2. And we can play knight f3 to not only hit the king and the rook, but we're actually hitting the queen as well. So we can take their queen, be up a queen for a rook, and just have an easily winning position. I mean, you would beat me from this position if you were playing black and I was playing white. So Levitsky wanted to be a bit tricky here. He played this intermediate move of rook c5. Actually, before I talk about rook c5, I'm actually going to share how you can find these sorts of tactical moves, like rook h3 or rook g6. Well, let me ask you, what do you notice about these moves? Like, how would you describe these sort of chess moves to me? Well, the answer is that they're quite forcing moves. You'll notice that rook g6 is a threatening move that is a threatening to take the queen on the next turn. And rook h3 is a capture. And also you can see that knight f3 is a check. So these are the different types of forcing moves. Checks, captures, and moves that threaten something. I'd recommend you pause the video and write that down if you haven't already. That forcing moves are checks, captures, and threatening moves. Threats. And basically, the reason these moves often work is that forcing moves, by definition, are moves that limit the opponent's options as much as possible. So here, for example, the king is in check, and there are only two legal moves to get out of check. So that means knight f3 was a very forcing move, where he forced the opponent to play, let's say, only a small number of options, rather than a very large number. And it's a tip I was intending to cover actually in a later video, but we kind of saw it here already. That when it comes to solving tactics or even just finding a move that wins on the spot, like a nice combination, then often these moves will start with a forcing move, like a check or a capture. So if you actually ask yourself in the position, what other checks or captures that I can play or that my opponent can play in this position, it will really help you to find the tactics better and to win a lot more chess games as you play them. So that one tip alone, I think, can really improve your play more than almost anything else. So, make sure you actually apply it when you're solving those chess puzzles in your own time. So going back to the game, I was originally talking about the beauty in chess. And actually, after Marshall's next move, what's happened was really amazing. Basically, there was this massive crowd of spectators, around in the cafe, drinking their coffee or drinking their tea. Actually, probably drinking their alcohol and smoking cigarettes is probably more precise, but okay. And after this move that Marshall played, the spectators then showered the board with gold coins. Like getting out their purses and just like, yeah, this is so beautiful. I'm going to shower the board with gold coins. So this is obviously one of the most beautiful chess moves ever played, in my opinion, and the opinion of many other experts as well. So there are many good moves for black, but can you find the really beautiful one that Marshall played? Pause the video, decide on the move, and well, you're really going to love this when we come back. Okay, congratulations if you found Marshall's move. To be fair, if you just wanted to move the queen to safety, that would be good enough to win as well. Because, if they take the rook, then you win the queen and you would still win anyway. So there's nothing wrong with just playing a simple safe move here. But the really beautiful one, and I just can't help but smile when I see this every time, is the move queen to g3. I don't know why they just called it a good move in chess space. They should really give it 2 exclamation marks for a really beautiful move. Or maybe like 100 exclamation marks, like, this is the best chess move of all time. Okay, so why does queen g3 actually work? Let's go through it. So, first of all, they can't just play h takes g3, because as you might have seen, we have 92 checkmates. King can't run to the h file, and white owned pieces are blocking the king's escape. If you take the other way with f takes g3, then there's knight to e2, and only move is king h1. Also with knight checks, they can be really annoying, by the way, because you can never block a knight check, because a knight's the one piece that can jump over another piece. Okay, I guess it's true with pawn checks as well, because they can only check directly to the king, 1 square away. But you get the idea. So after king h1, obviously rook f1 is what we call the back rank checkmate, when they weren't able to move the pawn in front of the king beforehand to allow the king to escape. Say if our h pawn was on h3, then we could play king h2 and get out of mate, but obviously that's not possible here. And finally, if we take with the queen takes g3, well, at least you're not getting checkmated by force here as white. But as you might have guessed, 92 is a pretty strong move. King h1's the only move. Knight takes g3. Clearly they can't play h takes g3 because of the pin. But otherwise they're losing the rook on the next turn. Or if fg3, then again rook f1 is a back rank mate. Don't you just love these 2 sets of pins against the king and the rook to the pawn, or the 2 pawns to the king and rook? It's not every day you see 2 pins like this, and yeah, it's just really beautiful when you can, put your queen just on pre like that, where it can be taken 3 ways, and whichever way they take it, they get mated or they lose the game in some other way. So it's, really rare and really beautiful chess combination, and I'll save it for you, and I really hope that you enjoyed this as much as I enjoy it now. It's like the 100th time I see it, and still I love this example. Okay, so I realize that we've spent a lot of time on this video, like a bit longer than I expected, so I congratulate you for sticking it out and continuing with it. Now let me teach you how to be a great student, because in chess we often focus like how to become a better chess player and how we can learn from others. But you might have also heard of this quote of when the student is ready, the teacher or the master will appear. I think in India you like to use the word like guru for a like really respected like expert coach or like a mentor in something. Anyway, I like the word as well. So if you want to be a great student and learn as much as possible, not just from some gurus but also from your own experience, well, I'd like to share an example of how to do that. I mean, the main qualities I see in good students, and I see myself as a student as well, where as a coach I'm always learning new things, always trying to learn new things about chess, how to be a better coach, how to help people more with their chess and in life, and even like other skills as well, like how to get you to know about my this sort of free chess video so that you can learn from a Grandmaster for free. I mean, that's like I guess a dream come true for you, right, to have this opportunity. So I'm constantly learning and learning new things. It's how I stay an expert in what I do, and doing a great job for you, all of you out there. So, okay, in terms of the different skills and qualities that students have, I mean, they're quite similar to what I mentioned with great chess players. So obviously, like the more passionate you are about something, the more you're going to work at it, the more you're going to enjoy at it, and the more you're going to enjoy it, and ultimately the more you're going to improve at it as well. So I think that's a key point, that good students really enjoy what they're doing. And I think also it's important not to get too emotionally fixated on the results as well. I speak from my own experience that there were many times where I was so focused on like just winning the game or like winning the tournament that I would feel like kind of upset or really unhappy if I didn't win. And I think an important lesson is to not make your happiness dependent on the results. I've shared this with lots of students in lots of talks, and it's still a good reminder for me nowadays that I think that while it's good to have a goal of wanting to improve, it's also, you actually improve more if you just enjoy the process and realize that the real reward is actually not in that final result of, say, winning the tournament or getting the chess title, but in the actual journey and what you'll learn and the experiences you have along the way. I think that's something I can't really stress enough. And I don't necessarily expect you to master this overnight, even if you understand what I'm saying now. But if you give it some time and you learn from your own experiences, I think that will make clearer what I'm talking about and help you to apply it in your own life and your own chess journey. And the other thing I think that really helps is to have a curiosity, to think, well, okay, what's a good move in this position? Or even on a deeper level, like, how can I be a better chess player? What's something I can still learn more about? Or like, I was going to kind of say the same question, but you get the idea. Like, sort of, how can I learn from other people more? Or what's some really great resource I can study? Like, for me, I'm just thinking that all the time. Like, how can I? Well, for me, it's more a perspective of service. Like, how can I help people more? Is like the basic question that really defines everything I do in terms of my purpose in life and all of my actions. It's all based on how much can I help others. Maybe your perspective is a bit different, but this is just sharing my own experience to help you to find what works for you. Like, what is your way of being a good student and enjoying the richness of life and the richness of chess. And I think that the fundamental principle of being curious and being a good student in terms of, let's say, getting the most value and learning from others is really to ask good questions. And I mean, that's one thing that's really great actually about private chess coaching is like when I work with people one-on-one, is that you can actually, they can ask me questions anytime and I can give that feedback and say, well, okay, yeah, this is a good point that you brought up, but this is also another way you can look at it, or, yeah, this is a good idea and, this is how you can apply that even more effectively as such. That said, I like it best, I think, if you're able to come up with your own answers, but, sometimes, being able to learn from someone else's experience is also very valuable. I mean, for myself, I know, like, I had coaching with titled chess players consistently from when I was 9 years old to when I was 23 years old. And actually, when I stopped having that regular private coaching, that's actually when my results in chess slowed down. And, like, looking back, if I could relive it again, I would definitely, really try hard to find that right chess coach for me, even as a Grandmaster. I mean, it's a thing, like, if you look at the world's top chess players, like Carlsen, for example, has a full team of seconds, and, all the top chess players have their coaches that got them to where they are, and still have coaches to help them now. So it's like a thing, like, no matter how good you get, there's always more you can learn, and actually it's how you stay the best, by still continuing to learn new things. So I realized that, I covered a lot of different, suggestions on how you can learn effectively. But I think there's also another substitute for actually seeing how it works in practice. So to do that, I've actually taken a question from one of my students, Sterling. And, I kind of use Sterling a lot actually as a kind of like a role model for a really great student in terms of how he approaches the learning process. Because he has a lot of good questions for me actually. And when you see this example, you'll kind of see it for yourself, like what a kind of, good question might look like. It doesn't have to be anywhere near as detailed as, what Sterling shared here. But it can even be something simple as, what opening do you think I should play? Or, what's a good move in this position? Or, why is this move not working? You kind of get the idea that, it's not hard to come up with good questions when you get the idea and, we have some good examples of questions you can ask. But the question that Sterling asked was about this game in the Zurich Candidates Tournament 953. By the way, there's some really great books on this tournament by David Bronstein, and also another book by Miguel Najdorf on the Zurich 953 tournament, which is not as famous but might actually be even better again. It's a really great way to learn the thought process of a really strong chess player, and that's why a lot of Grandmasters have studied these books, cover to cover. I even devoured them, going through many times in the old days. So Sterling's question was, how do you go about analysing and learning from a game where one side won, but the other side made these innocent-looking moves the whole game? This came to me when I was playing through this game between Gligerich and Stahlberg, and I thought, well, what did Black even do wrong here, other than the suggested opening improvement and then adjusting the plans after that move? And it's a really good question, actually, the asked of, how do you actually learn from games? And actually, I'm going to be covering this with you in a later video, in case you also have this question. So it'll be a good introduction there. And I think to understand Sterling's question and to understand the feedback I gave him, I'm just going to quickly play through the moves, and I mean, there won't be the time for me to go through it in detail because I have a lot of other points I want to teach you. But let's just see the moves. So there's e4, e6, d4, d5, French defense, knight c3, bishop b4, Winawer. Gligerich played unusual move, bishop d3, d takes c4, bishop takes c4. And here Bronstein suggested the move knight f6 as an improvement, then saying, well, depending on which diagonal the bishop goes to, then we're going to change our plan as Black depending on what they do. So of keeping your options open and keeping flexible. But okay, other than that, Bronstein didn't really give many notes to this game, which maybe explains Sterling's question to me. So we had c5, knight e2, knight f6, bishop f3. We had an exchange of pawns, c takes d4, queen takes d4, queen takes d4 and knight d4. And actually I do want to talk a little bit about these exchanges because it's something I actually hadn't thought to cover in the other videos, but it's actually a really useful point that can help you a lot. So you might notice there's this pawn tension between these pawns. You know, kind of like a Mexican standoff actually between the pawns. And in this position you might notice that when black exchanges first, that the white queen has come to a more active square, to a developed square compared to where it was. And then when black plays queen takes d4 as in the game, then white can play knight takes d4. And again you notice that knight has come to a much more active square. Where on e2 it wasn't doing that much other than defending the knight. But on d4 it has a lot of potential, a lot of active squares that it could go to from here. So it's a well-placed piece that, you know, the knights in general belong in the center of the board, you could say. Or at least into the opponent's position if we can help it. And the principle here is that we should be mindful that these kind of exchanges like pawn for pawn, they're not really equal exchanges. You know, someone is going to benefit from the trade. And I think here you could say that it's white who slightly benefited from this exchange, because he got the queen to a more active square of the recapture, and then he also got the knight to a more active square of the recapture. And that's often a way you can take control of the game, a way you can take the initiative in chess, without necessarily needing to go for a huge, like mad dog attack on the king. Sometimes it can just be handling this tension correctly, so that they sort of either take at the wrong moments and let us improve our position for free like this, or they give us a chance to release the tension, maybe to exchange in the right way, to make them worsen their position, conversely. Because in this position, I think black shouldn't have played cd4, actually. Maybe it's not such a bad move, to be fair, but I think that knight c6 would be a better move. To try to make white take on c5, so that then white would have to... Well, let's play the moves out. dc5. Not saying dc5 is the best move, but just to show if white takes first. Then you can see from the exchange that, you know, this is a better endgame than what we saw in the previous note with the knight on d4. Because, you know, white's king is sort of stuck in the center, which... It's not the end of the world, but you kind of wish you could castle and get the rook in the center quickly. And even the bishop maybe is actually better on c5 than b4, because you're attacking the f2 pawn and that slows up white's plans a little bit in dealing with the threat. I mean, if you continued the line, you could say, well, what if white plays bishop e3 and, you know, continues the Mexican standoff? It's certainly something you might like to explore in your own time to learn even more. But I think this is an important lesson that, you know, when we're considering exchange, we should ask the question, who does the exchange favor? You know, whose pieces actually get to better positions after the pieces have been traded? And of course, as you understand chess better, you'll get better at answering that question. But sometimes in a position like this, it's just as simple as saying, well, the queens have come off the board, and the knight has got to a much more active square than before. So at least it looks kind of nice for white to get the knight to a better square by comparison. So I hope that technique's really helped you, but let's see how the actual game went. And, you know, I'll try to actually get through the game in a decent amount of time. So we had the move a6, castles, knight bd7. One thing also you're really going to get out of this game is that because Gligerich played much better than Stahlberg, because it's a game of the old masters, you'll see really well how white should play these sort of endgames. Because I know that a lot of you say that your endgames are not so strong and that you want to get better at the endgame. And there are a lot of ways you can improve your endgame. This is just one of the good ways to actually study the games of the great chess players and actually see their thought process to try to understand, well, you know, this is how you win in this pawn structure when you've got these pawns like this. Sorry, just bear with me. And when you've got the bishop putting pressure on the long diagonal, not letting their c8 bishop develop so easily. So game went castles, bishop d2, rook d8. I realise that some of these moves can be improved on, but I just want to show you how the game played out so that my answer to Sterling's question will make sense. So we had a3, just kicking the bishop around. Black takes, it helps our bishop also to get to a nice fianchetto diagonal and to get the bishop pair advantage, which would mean that we would cover both color complexes, whereas black would be a bit weak on the dark squares because he only has a light squared bishop. So for those who are not sure what the bishop pair advantage is, well, that explains it nicely for you. So we had bishop d6 instead, rook a d1. See, all the white pieces are well developed. Bishop c7, bishop to g5, h6, bishop h4. So arguably the pin on the knight was seemingly a bit annoying for black. That's why I played g5 for better or worse. I had bishop g3, bishop takes g3, h takes g3. And let me ask you a question. So white has double pawns at the moment, but do you think they're a strength or a weakness for white in this position? As always, you can pause the video to think about it some more. So the thing is, double pawns are often maligned. They're often considered a weakness, like a poor type of pawn weakness. I find though that often that's not actually the case. That when the pawns are in one pawn island like this, they can actually even be a little bit of a strength because, the pawns can't really be effectively attacked in a good way because they form a nice chunky pawn structure. And you've even actually created a square for your king so that, let's say if worst comes to worst and they have a rook on e1 checking our king, well, it won't be a back rank mate because we have king h2 as creating a little bit of air or some luft for the king as the Germans like to say. So yeah, it's a useful principle that, actually this might even be a slight improvement of the pawn structure for white and we shouldn't fear the double pawns. So game went g4, bishop e2, knight b6. Again, I don't think these moves were that great from black, but I just want to show you how Gligorich played it and how he won from this position. So I played knight b3, opening up the d file for the rook. Bishop d7, probably is not the best move by the way. Knight to a5, attacking b7. Rook a b8, rook d6, attacking the knight, knight c8, rook d4, pressuring the pawn. Actually, this is another point that I actually wasn't intending to cover in this video, but as you probably figured it by now, I'm a bit of a generous person. And when I think of an idea, I just have to share it with you. So you might be wondering, what exactly is the initiative in chess? Maybe you've heard the word of, the initiative, but you're not really sure what it means. I find that's a common misconception among club players, among beginner and intermediate chess players. Well, let me ask you, what do you think the initiative is in chess? How would you define the initiative? Okay, well, here's my definition. I think that the initiative in chess is like having the ball in football. If you think about it, the only way you can score a goal in football is to possess the ball as such and to score the goal from there. If we don't possess the ball, then we can't score the goal, unless the opponent kicks an own goal, which would be like putting a piece on pre in chess or blundering a mate in one. But the point remains that, if we want to win, it's not enough just to play safe moves and just not put any piece on pre or not make any blunders. You actually have to find a way to pressure the opponent to make some threats in order to, be able to win material or or prompt some concession to win the game, like set up a mating threat as such. That's the point. You can't really win the game if you aren't able to execute some sort of threats, right? Whether it's checkmate or something simpler. So what the initiative is it's when we have not just the threats in the position, but actually the flow of threats, like a series of threats, that the opponent's not able to ignore. So it means it's like they're kind of dancing to our tune, where they have to stop our threats, and allows us to take control of the game, where the side with the initiative controls the game and controls the position. Just like a side in football who possesses the ball, controls the game and decides, well, I can make all the threats to score a goal, and the opponent has to defend to stop the goal from being scored as such. So hopefully that makes sense to you, that you're now clear on what the initiative is. If necessary, you can always pause the video to write down the definition I shared of the initiative that I just shared with you now, that the initiative is when we have the series of threats that the opponent is unable to ignore. So in this position, black played e5, which does come with a counter threat, but it doesn't mean that black has the initiative, because after rook d2, black doesn't really have a good follow-up threat to follow it up. I mean, if he plays b6, we have a really nice tactic, actually. I'll see if you can spot the best move for white. Yeah, congratulations if you realize that the black rooks are undefended. A lot of tactics in chess are based on this idea of loose pieces drop off, which means, well, that often the pieces that fall to some tactic or trick will be the pieces that are undefended or not well defended. And because black has a lot of undefended pawns and pieces in his position, it means he's very vulnerable to all sorts of tactics potentially. And it turns out knight c6 is a winner here, forking the two rooks. But if bishop c6, then we can take the rook for free. Again, we won the exchange, and, well, if you're astute, you'll even see that we can take another pawn with bishop a6, and black's position is just completely collapsing. And again, I think you would win this position against me if you had it in a game. But if you're not sure, you can always copy this position, play it out against a computer, and see if you can beat the computer at this. That's one exercise I often share with my students. So after rook to e8 instead of b6, white found a nice tactic of knight to e4, which is just overloading the defender of the d7 bishop. So after knight e4 in the game, white plays rook takes d7. And actually this shows you a really nice endgame principle, where I like to use a little kind of gimmick to help you remember it. So I have this saying of rook on the 7th rank equals money in the bank. Like in the endgame, like a rook endgame or an endgame with lots of pieces, your dream is basically to attack the opponent's weak pawns in general. Sure, if you get a mating attack, it's really nice, but you can't always count on it when you don't have a lot of pieces on the board to actually mate the king. But if you can attack their pawns, it's a nice way to pressure the opponent and actually to take the initiative, as I was just talking about. And you might notice also that when you take the starting position, all the pawns are on the 2nd rank, or for black, the 7th rank. So that's where the saying rook in the 7th rank, money in the bank comes from, because we can attack their pawns, and it's like the money that we can take and then put as an investment to eventually win the game with our extra material. So the game concluded knight c5, rook c7. So you shouldn't stop here just because white has a winning position. It's instructive to learn how white actually wins as well, and studying these old masters games is a great way to learn this skill. So black played knight to e6. You can see the pawn is only defended once and it's attacked 2 times. So white played rook takes b7, grabbing the pawn and also leaving this pawn as a weakness, as the pawn who was defending it is no longer there. So knight d6 was played, and I think that Skligerich's play from this point was almost perfect. Played rook d7 to attack the knight, rook b6, b4, just making sure that the pawn's well protected, and then the knight's anchored on the outpost. So it's called an outpost when the knight is on a square that can't be attacked by an enemy pawn, say with b6 for example. Whereas say knight d4 is not an outpost for the knight, because in the worst case we can kick it away with c3 and kick it away with a pawn. So that's just so you understand that concept. After knight b5, white found a really nice knight fork. Let's see if you can spot it as well with white to play. So white played a great move, knight c4, attacking the two undefended pieces. This is why the knights are really tricky pieces, because they move in a different way to the other pieces. They can jump over the pieces. And so a lot of sneaky tactics can be used based on playing with the knights. So after rook c6, we had knight takes c5, rook takes c2, bishop b5. I mean, when you're up material, it's often a good idea to trade the attacking pieces so that you can use your material advantage more easily. So that's why we traded the bishop for the knights. So Gligorich played knight f7, Stolberg played king f8, taking the pawns, knight h6, rook e7, rook d5. You can see that Gligorich is doing a really good job of attacking the weak pawns in this position. So we had knight c7, rook f5, just make sure the rook couldn't be taken. And also it's a check, so there's no rook takes e1 in reply. So king e8, rook takes e7, king e7, knight g4. So white's up 4 pawns, and after rook a2, rook c5. So we can see we're not even giving black a hint of an initiative by defending with rook f3. But we're asking, well, do we have a move to make a stronger threat in reply? This is a really great thinking technique that, well, I'll try my best to mention as it comes up, because it's one of the secrets to becoming a really strong player. And you could almost call it like my trademark thinking technique. We call it like the Illingworth chess method or something. So after king d6 and rook c3, black resigned here because, I mean, he's 4 pawns down. You know, obviously it's an endgame, so we're going to bring our king into the game steadily. We're going to turn our passed pawn into a queen. That's the way that you typically win an endgame, because maybe a knight and a rook by itself won't give you checkmating material. Say if they have some other pieces. But if you've got a queen more than the opponent, then obviously it's easy to overwhelm the defense. Or even say if you only have a king and a pawn versus a king, well, if that pawn promotes to a queen or even a rook, then suddenly you have material with which you can checkmate the king. Obviously, I assume that all of you here know how to checkmate with a king and queen versus a king, or a king and a rook versus a king. But if you don't, then you can look it up on YouTube. There are some nice videos there that can really help you. And yeah, it's definitely a good skill for you to learn if you haven't mastered it. So let's save this example, and well, before I forget, I should actually answer the question. So I just realized I think I maybe didn't copy paste my full answer, but it can give you an idea. So what I shared with Sterling is a bit like what I shared with you, that these kind of games that we've seen where one player just completely outplays and dominates the opponent, I think are actually among the most instructive to study, because they show exactly what white is aiming for in this standard queenside majority structure. Just to explain what that means, a majority is when you have more pawns on one side of the board than the opponent. So here white has a 3-2 queenside majority, and that means the long-term plan for white, like really long-term, is to eventually push those queenside pawns and eventually be able to create a passed pawn on the queenside that hopefully we could eventually turn into a queen. It's a very long-winded plan, of course, but it might help you to get an idea of what's going on in these sorts of positions, where if you are stuck for a plan, it'll give you some, at least something you can follow, and you can try to approach a position then more the way, say, a master level player would. Even if it's not the best plan every time, at least it gives you an option that maybe you didn't know of before. So I mentioned to Sterling that a6 is basically losing a tempo, because I think the idea of a6 is that he was worried about knight d to b5. But before we stop the opponent's threat, we should ask the question, can we just ignore it? Can we just play the move we want to play anyway? And say, well, you can play your move if you want to. It doesn't really hurt me. And that turns out to be the case here, that you can actually just castle and, just keep your king safe and get your rook here. Some of you might know the principle that you should keep your king in the center in the endgame, and you might be wondering, well, why not play king e7 instead, Max? And to be fair, maybe king e7 is not such a bad move either. But the thing is, even though the queens are off the board, all the other pieces are still on the board. So I think you can't really fairly call it an endgame at this stage. I think it is still technically more of a queenless middle game. So that's why I'd probably prefer castles here. And if white does play knight db5, then knight c7 is a threat to trap the rook. But black can again ignore it with a move like knight c6. And if white plays knight c7, then, just rook b8. And, it's not really clear how white follows up the attack. Meanwhile, white's made a lot of moves with this knight and not really used those moves to get the other football players on the field, as I like to say. And, if bishop f4, then, there are moves like bishop d7 or e5, and it just becomes abundantly clear that white is not white is not really getting a good follow-up of threats, and black is the one taking control in this position. So it's one thing to keep in mind that sometimes these quiet positions you don't want to necessarily just try to play a threat every single move, because maybe they'll just improve your position while you're moving one or two pieces around. And that's maybe how they can outplay you, or how you can outplay them if you're playing one of these players who just wants to attack your piece every move. Instead of thinking, what's the broader game plan? How can I keep improving my position on the long term, rather like the strategy, rather than just one move at a time. So I explained to my student Sterling that a6 is a waste of a tempo, because you don't actually have to stop knight db5. It's better to get a new piece developed instead, like with castles. And I also mentioned that in the position here, that knight to e5... Sorry, I accidentally said the move that's a better move. But you might remember that black played bishop to c7. And you can see it's a bit of a passive move. You're retreating your bishop, and it's not like your bishop was attacked by the rook or something, even though there's the potential for that to happen. So I like to think, when you're defending, like this is a really useful skill for those of you who struggle to defend well. I like to ask the question, what's the most active way to defend against the opponent's threat? The most aggressive way is to ignore the opponent's threat. But say we can't ignore it and we do have to defend against it after all. What's the most active way to defend? And, well, I was going to say it as a puzzle for you, but I kind of gave away the answer. But maybe I can ask you, well, why is knight to e5 a good move in this position? Well, the answer is that often it's the case in chess that a good move has more than one good idea. And that's the case here as well, where you have the idea of taking the bishop on f3, which would allow you to get the bishop pair advantage that I talked about a bit earlier when discussing this game. Also, your knight even has some other squares it can potentially move to in the future. Just as I talked about how the knight is really well placed on d4 in the center. Likewise, now on e5 is really well positioned. And let's say white wants to keep his bishop safe and retreats with bishop e2 to keep the bishop pair. Well, now we see another good point of knight e5, that we can play bishop d7. We connected the rooks, so it means that we're out of the opening phase and we got into the middle game safely. We can give ourselves a little pat on the back for that. And then our final piece can develop. And with middle game plans maybe such as playing on the queen side, and maybe even trying to get our knight to attack their slightly weak pawns, well, this can allow us to have a good position. And if you get these sort of structures where you trade your c pawn for their d pawn, then it's worth keeping that plan in mind of putting the rook on the half open c file where it has more mobility, and pushing that b pawn down the board in order to gain some space to open up the queen side and play on the side of the board where we are strong. So that's the Actually, there's one more thing I should explain as well. Because a few of you might be a bit nervous about that bishop f4 pin, which might look a bit annoying. But here's where the tactics and the strategy come together. Where they're not things you can completely separate. They're sort of kind of, good tactics kind of come from good strategy, and good strategy comes from good tactics. So in this position, well, my first thought was to play the move knight to f3 in this position, discovering attack on the bishop. And you know, when you see these sort of tactics, it's easy to think, well, it's good just because it's a tactic. But actually it would be a blunder here, because if bishop takes f3, bishop f4, and now bishop takes b7. And then after rook b8, well, white has some different moves he can play, but let's say bishop takes a6. And if we count the material after rook takes b2, well, white is currently up a pawn, and to be fair, maybe black has reasonable compensation with the bishop pair and with white's remaining queenside pawns being isolated. You're already threatening rook a8 to skewer the bishop and pawn and try to get the pawn back. So maybe knight f3 is not actually the worst move on the board, but it gives you an example of how that thought process can take place and how you can actually, how one actually thinks about a position, how a grandmaster thinks about it, about my trusty chess engine to give me all the answers. Also, you might recognize that, knight f3 is not the only move here. What if we have some good alternative in this position? And then you might have come up with a move like knight c4, which has the same tricky idea of, trying to trade our bishop for the knight. We're also attacking the b2 pawn, so it limits white's options a bit. And we're also using what I like to call the elastic band trick, which we do with the knight, where we kind of stretch the knight out. We stretch that elastic band. And then when they take, we're able to snap the knight back, using the knight to, take back the piece. And even though the knight's undefended, we can defend it pretty easily with the rook next move. So the black position would be quite solid with no real weaknesses. And I don't think black would really be worse at all in a position like this. I mean, you can still play the plan I mentioned before. King can steadily come to the center as more pieces get traded. And I mean, it's just a solid position. There's nothing really wrong with it for either side. Okay, I spent a lot more time explaining this game than I initially intended. It's a thing, like, I'm so passionate about chess that, I see a position, I just want to, explain it, right? Or teach some lesson as soon as I think of it. So, okay, so that was actually teaching how to learn from some other players' games. And I mean, I was intending for this, to be, a approximately 2-hour video, and you already, covered, part 1 of several parts in, 2 hours was sort of the plan. But I think I've really helped you a lot to kind of see how a grandmaster approaches chess, see how you can train it. I've given you a lot of different suggestions, given you a lot of different thinking techniques, and some really good questions that I've asked you on, how to actually improve at chess, like how to actually be ready from the journey on a non-chess level, if that makes sense. So I have just a few final questions to help you learn as much as possible from this video and to consolidate the knowledge you've learned from this lesson. So what would you say is one of the main things you learned from this video? What's the point I shared, or the main thing that you learned from this? And I really strongly recommend you pause the video and write this down, because you're going to want to have a record of these lessons, and you're going to remember it a lot better if you actually have a written record. It's okay, you've paused the video and you've thought about, well, what was the main thing you learned. I want you to actually think of a few other things as well. What are 2 other things that you've learned from this video and from our lesson here? Okay, well done on coming up with some more great things that you learned. And now I want to try to put it into practice, because it's all well and good to have this knowledge that I've given you, but if you don't find a way to apply it yourself, then it's not going to translate into results in your own games. And well, obviously that's why we're here. That's why I want to help you, so you can get those results and become a much better player. So what's one thing you've learned that you're going to try to apply in your own games from now on? Or another way we could word is, what's one thing you've learned that you're going to apply in your chess training and practice from now on? Again, pause the video, write your answer, and come back here when you've got it written down. Okay, great. If your answer was the same as what you said for the last question, then that's perfectly fine. And what's one way? I mean, I've shared a lot of training tips here, based on how I train as a Grandmaster. But what's one training tip I've shared here that you're going to start doing in your own chess training from now on? Okay, so you've had a think about that. I assume you've paused the video and written it down. If you haven't already, then it's probably a good time to do that. And yeah, I think just from that you can really see how much you've learned from this video. And I mean, this is one reason actually I really like doing these videos with you versus, say, me getting on a one-on-one call and say talking about it. I mean, I certainly love helping you, and it's really great to hear your chess stories and hear the challenges you're facing, and of course hear the successes you have. Like, yeah, I applied that thing you taught me, Max, and I gained 100 rating points in 1 week. Okay, it's probably not this fast for everyone, but get the idea. It's great to hear that you're getting some reward, and that was actually able to help you, and you're able to achieve something that maybe was a bit hard for you to achieve on your own. So I know that's true for me. Like, that probably I'd be talking to you on this video now if it wasn't for the support of my team, who help me with all sorts of different jobs where it's what they're good at, and it allows me to focus on helping you with your chess, and doing these videos to make you a better chess player as such. But yeah, going back to this, I was saying, well, it's nice, of course, to talk to people one-on-one and have a social life, as it were. You hear people's stories. I think in terms of the learning, you can actually learn a lot more in the time of what we're doing here and get a lot more value, because, I mean, if you think about it, like when if we're on a coaching call, like a lot of the time would actually be spent with me just listening to you, like understanding your situation, understanding the questions you have, and also me kind of setting you puzzles and asking you questions like what I've done here in this training video, and then sort of listening to your answers. But because you can pause the video, because I've got you to pause the video and write down the answers and to think about the positions, it means that even though this is a 2-hour video, if you did that, it probably took you a lot more than 2 hours to get through it, right? Maybe it even took you 4 hours or more to get through this whole lesson. I'd like to congratulate you as well on actually making that commitment and getting through this whole video, because it's not easy to keep your focus for like 2 whole hours. I know this from my own experience playing chess, where just focused on the board, and I think if you have like one slip in your concentration, that can be what costs you the game potentially. Just that one loss of focus. Okay, I guess it's true during a chess game you can between moves, like get up from the board, or if you're playing a tournament, you can walk around and refresh your mind, like go to the bathroom, splash water on your face, whatever it is you do to kind of get sharp and take like a strategic break to get alert again. And so you can see I'm giving you like more pointers, I just can't help sharing it with you. But yeah, it's the idea that it's a really serious commitment to get through this video. If you've completed it, it shows you're really, really serious about becoming a better chess player. I want to congratulate you for that, and honor your commitment to your chess improvement. Yeah, I mean, that's more or less what I want to say. Congrats on completing the video. I do have some other opportunities as well where, if you really enjoyed this video and you'd like to, I guess, take your chess improvement to another level to see what's possible when you're actually getting that sort of help from me, where you're able to ask me questions and get the answers from me, and also from the great community of chess improvers that I've been building over time. Well, maybe I can tell you a little bit about that just now, because, if you've got here for 110 minutes, then I think you probably can do another 10 as such. We kind of got through the lion's share of it. So the main one I want to share with you, I have a lot of nice programs I'm working on to help people at different sort of levels. So depending on, of course, the amount of resources you have, how much money you can spend on chess, I understand that not everyone can afford, let's say, a lot of private chess coaching on a regular basis. And that's why I've created this group called the Chess Improvement Group, because I wanted to make chess improvement accessible for virtually anyone. It's why I created this video course as well, so that anybody can at least learn some tips from a Grandmaster that can at least get you started on the right path. Of course, this isn't everything you need to know to become a master, but at least it gives you a good starting point and a really good head start over those that haven't watched the video, or maybe those that signed up and never got around to watching it. I know I do at times as well, so anyway. So with the Chess Improvement Group, so basically it's a mastermind group, like a peer-to-peer mentoring. I'll say it in simple English. It's a group where we get together for Facebook, have a private Facebook group where we just ask questions and answer each other's questions. We help each other with our problems and our challenges in chess. And of course, because I'm the one leading this group, it's natural that people tend to ask me the questions like, "Oh, Max, should I buy this book? Is it good for my level?" Or "This was a chess game I played and I kind of lost and I wasn't sure what to do here. Can you help me with that?" Or even "How do I improve my tactics?" All sorts of different questions I get. And the great thing is, in this group you can get some really great answers, not just from me, but also from the other members of the group. Because we have a lot of other title players as well, like another Grandmaster. We have many international masters, many FIDE masters. And we also have many amateurs as well who are really, really passionate about chess. They might not be title players, but actually have really good ideas for improvement. And if you think about it, it can be nice not just to hear what a Grandmaster has to say, but also to kind of know what the situation for someone who's maybe only 1 or 2 steps ahead of you, where they can kind of say, "Yeah, I had this challenge as well," say if you're 1600 rated, they can say, "Well, yeah, I remember when I was rated 1600, this was a challenge I had, and this is how I overcame it." We're not just learning from my experience, but from others as well, and their expertise. I know I've learned so much just from being in this group, and not just about how to get better at chess, but I've learned a lot of new things for chess skill as well. So if I can learn a lot about as a Grandmaster, learn a lot about chess as a Grandmaster from this chess mastermind and this chess group, then I know that you can really get a lot out of it as well. Actually, I should tell you a bit about not just the group, but the different bonuses you'll get. Because I really want to over-deliver like I've done in this video and give you some really amazing value when you join the group, so that you're not just relying on, say, being a good student and asking good questions, or even just learning from other people's good questions, but being able to learn from more of my Grandmaster material, which is presented in a similar style to this, where, not all of it is in a video format like that. I certainly do have some training videos there that you can study, but even the way I write is somewhat similar to the way I talk, as I guess you can imagine. So, for example, when you join, you actually get a thank you video, which will tell you how to get the most out of the group, and to tell you the things you need to know, just to get set up and everything. It's pretty simple, but I want to make sure there's no confusion, right? You'll also get my full Grandmaster chess training plan, because you might have noticed that in this video I decided not to sort of cover it from the perspective of, let's say, these are the things you should work on for your chess. Because I know that you have different challenges and you're at different levels, and maybe the advice may not necessarily apply for every single person if I give something very general. But having said that, in my Grandmaster chess training plan, this is something I normally give to my private students in the past, but I also give it to the people who join the chess improvement group, because, well, it allows you to know exactly what you should be working on with your chess. Things like how to analyze your chess games. Of course, we covered how to learn from another person's game here, but I actually have a simple 3-step process that can really help you to get the most value from your games. So that, say, if you don't have a chess coach, then you can really learn a lot from the games yourself and improve that way for your own experience, so that you're not repeating the same mistakes over and over again. Because I'm sure you know how frustrating that is, right? When you lose a game and you don't know why, or you know why, but you don't know how to solve that problem. Well, that's where this resource can really help you with that. I also cover how to work on the different components of chess, like how to solve tactics puzzles more intelligently. It's like my special method. I think you're really going to love it, because I don't really see anyone else recommending it quite the way that I do. But it's based on what worked for me, what I was doing when I was improving a lot at chess. It's like, well, this is what I did when I improved most rapidly. So you get the benefit of that experience of mine for as a bonus. And you also get information on how to work on each area of chess. So say if you're not sure how to work on your openings, you want to have better openings, it teaches you how to do that. If you want to improve your middle games in general, it teaches you how to actually improve each part of the middle game skill, whether it's tactics or whether it's strategy or whether it's calculation. I cover all of that. I also talk about end games, so I show how to study the end games, not just in terms of learning end game theory, but actually also how to learn more like practical end games, a bit like we saw in the games I showed here, which I didn't intend to cover quite this way, but it kind of worked out quite well as such. It's kind of like how things don't always go as you planned, but it still works out well anyway, if you know what you're doing. So that's the Grandmaster chess training plan. What else? So you also will get access to a bunch of videos I prepared. Ones in a similar style to this. Don't worry, they're not all 2 hours in length, so we'll be able to have a toilet break like when the video is finished as such. But I guess you can by pausing the video. But the point is that with these videos, they cover different chess topics as such. So, for example, actually one of the videos I have is in fact how a Grandmaster analyzes their games, where I actually go through my games and show how I analyze and how I learn. So it actually shows you how to put the things I teach in the Grandmaster chess training plan and apply it yourself. Also have some nice opening videos. What I have is best junior chess openings, which actually doesn't just give you an opening repertoire for white and black, but it actually shows you how to work on openings intelligently, so that you can actually see what your opponents are most likely playing so that you're ready for it, and then also see how to punish the opponent's typical mistakes so that you can be more successful against the opponents you'll be playing, and not waste a lot of time studying an opening book only to find that either you're not getting it on the board or it's just not relevant because your opponents are playing differently. If you're focusing on the moves your opponents are actually facing, then it's just much more valuable and much more practical if you can actually apply what you're learning, right? I also teach you how to solve endgame studies and problems, because that mate in 2 I showed you before might have been a bit difficult for you. So I just give you all the techniques that can really help you to solve them. And I give you a good mix of some easier and somewhat challenging puzzles. Just an introduction so that you can get the value and improvement from studying endgames, and endgame studies I should say, without the frustration of solving puzzles that are too hard for your level. Because I'm sure you know how that feels when you sort of sit there for ages and feel like you wasted your time. Nobody wants this. And I think the biggest bonus that you're really going to love is I actually have a lot of content in the Facebook group itself, where I've analysed lots and lots of different chess games. I've included lots of opening files. And the best thing about all of it is that you can ask questions anytime about any of the content, any chess games you've played, or any challenges you're facing. You can always ask, and our community is always there to help you. So it's really unlike any other sort of opportunity. And for those of you who aren't able to get private coaching and you don't have opportunities to ask your coach your questions, well, it gives you a chance to learn that way. And if you do have a coach, then I'd say that this is kind of like taking the coaching environment of being able to ask the coach questions and get feedback and being able to get that help 24/7, not just from me, but from anyone in our community potentially, because we all have some skin in the game. We all want to get better at chess. And in my case, I want to help you all get better with your chess. And yeah, just a really great opportunity. I'm really happy that that you're here to have this chance to be able to join us, to really make a big jump in your improvement. And I mean, it doesn't matter to you, Trudge, if you can't take this opportunity now, because I mean, if I can just help you become a better chess player, like that's the biggest reward for me, that I was able to help you in some way toward achieving your goals and become a better chess player than you would have just completely on your own. So yeah, I would love it if you can join though. I really want to welcome you into the group and just help you as much as possible with your chess. Because what we've covered here is just the grassroots, like the first step. There's so much more expertise I can share with you that I would love to share with you. And yeah, I'm really hoping that I'll see you soon in the chess improvement group. So congrats again from completing this video course. And yeah, hope I'll see you in the group. Take care and good luck with your chess.